Well, we've already discussed Bucky's path to the Sweet 16, but there are many, many more teams in the tournament.
And joining us today to help you fill out your bracket, you have until tomorrow morning, is Professor of Industrial and Systems Engineering at UW-Madison, Laura Albert. Laura, it's good to see you.
Welcome back. It's been a couple of years.
It's good to be back.
So building a bracket is not just luck, right? There is actually a science to this.
Exactly. There's some luck, but the numbers help a lot.
So what are the leading indicators that you want to look for to figure out which teams will be successful and run deep in the tournament?
The color of the uniforms.
Or the toothpaste.
Well, I look at a lot of the analytics-based rankings, and you might be wondering how they rank the teams, and they look at a few things. One is points scored versus points allowed, sort of the nuts and bolts of just scoring that teams can generate. Point differentials, they look at who they play and who they score those points against, as well as things like home field advantage. And looking at the tournament, we can also look at injury reports to supplement those numbers and look at the locations where the games are actually played. Some teams, like Wisconsin, will basically have a home game playing in Milwaukee, and that makes a difference.
And invariably, there are teams that big upsets.
Yep.
What's the most common upset? Is it a 116, a 215?
A 116 has only happened once.
Really?
In the first, yes, in the first round, the 5-12, 6-11, and 7-10 generate a lot of upsets, historically about 35 to 40%. That's just in the first round. If you look further into the tournament, you get a different story. The 10 and 11 seeds go a little bit further into the tournament, and by far the 11 seeds have historically gone the furthest. If we look at the 10 through 16 teams that have made it to the Final Four, that's happened 5 times. All have been 11 seeds.
Interesting.
The hypothesis is that they go the furthest before facing a 1 or 2 seed.
Oh,
so they might have an easier path.
How often does a 1 seed go all the way?
Never.
Really?
They've only that one victory,
Wow.
and then that's as far as they went.
Has there ever been a perfect bracket?
No, not even close. And some years, only a couple people in the country have gotten all Final Four teams correct. And that's just when there's been a lot of upsets and one of those 11 seeds that have made the Final Four.
So let's look at this year's bracket. Is there a team that is analytically looking very good, but that is under the public's radar a little bit?
There's a few. I would say Houston is a 5 seed and is a little bit underseeded. In most of the analytics-based rankings, they're in the top 8, so maybe they should have been a 2 seed. If I look at lower seeds, San Francisco, South Dakota State, and Iowa State look pretty good.
Really? How does Wisconsin look?
Unfortunately, they might be a little overrated. If we look at some of the numbers, they won a lot of close victories this year, and that wasn't just a few games that occurred over this season. That was pretty systematic. So if you look at, and that's a good indicator of whether they'll win the next game. So, but they do have home court advantage, at least in their first 2 rounds of the tournament, which can make a big difference.
Did you check the injury report? We have to check the injury report as well. This is a lot of homework to do.
Or just pick teams you like, right? I mean, you're not going to win.
I mean, statistically, does it matter? I mean, if you just randomly pick it by animal names, for example, are your odds the same?
Mascots.
Yeah.
That's not a good approach. And I'll prove it to you later. We'll crunch some numbers together.
That would be fun, because you've done that one year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Newshounds did a bracket.
The Newshounds, yeah, they picked their favorite animal mascots. Didn't do well. I think we were busted the first round, first game, perhaps.
Yeah.
All right, well, it's going to be fun, nonetheless. It's fun to watch, do a bracket. Even if you're not gambling, it's just fun to...
Yeah, no, it's fun to know the science behind it. We'll see if we have more luck this year. Last year, we didn't do so well. We'll
Can
see.
we ask you who's going to win the whole thing?
It's hard to say, but I will say historically the #1 team going into the tournament only wins about 1 in 4 times, which is a little bit surprising. And if we put all 4 seeds those 1 seeds together, they win about 2/3 of the time. So anybody has a chance, but most teams don't really have a chance to win it all. It's some of those few teams at the top.
Laura, interesting as always.
Oh, so interesting.
Thanks for being
Such
with us
a fun
today.
time of the year. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, do you think you know more than Zach and our sports anchor, Jordan Reed?
Well, maybe you just want to know who they have in the Vermont versus Arkansas game. You can find out. Laura, who do you have in that, by the way?
I have to check my bracket.
Okay. You can find out by going online at channel3000.com/bracket. See if you can beat the members of the News 3 sports team.